Hi, everybody. Natalia, thank you. And it's really an honor and a pleasure to be here to celebrate UCMC's 5th anniversary. I think that's an important. And, you noted the many friends, and there are many more American friends of Ukraine who have spoken here at UCMC, and I'm honored to be in that number also as of Ukraine during what is a really important period, because it's been an important 5 years in the history of Ukraine, and I think we all know, if we didn't know it before, that no democracy can thrive without independent media organizations like UCMC serving the public with integrity and with professionalism. And we have, the United States has been proud to partner with UCMC since its beginning. Today, I think UCMC sets an example for many other media organizations in Ukraine in its objectivity and steadfast commitment to the truth. That role and that example, I think, is especially critical today, because as we have marked the 5th anniversary, not just of UCMC, but also of the Euromaidan, it's clear that Ukraine is still working, and in some cases struggling, aspirations of the revolution of dignity. I mean, let there be no doubt, and I think everybody in the room would come up with their own examples, important areas where Ukraine has progressed over the last 5 years. So I'll give you my list, but it's an inclusive list. There's the new anti-constitution, stabilizing the banking system, encouraging the growth of civil society, building a new police force based on Western standards, implement decentralization. I mean, the list goes on. None of these reforms is complete. It's always a process, I think, in life as well as in the history of countries, but progress has been made, and it's been important progress. And I think it shows what Ukraine is capable of when the government, all of Ukraine's institutions, and the Ukrainian people work together. And I think media has an especially important role to play in Ukraine's progress and also in exposing corruption. We were just reminded last week and even last night when reporters informed the public about the Constitutional Court's decision to eliminate the illicit enrichment offense from the criminal code. And investigative journalists last week and last night revealed allegations of corruption in the defense sector. The Constitutional Court's decision is, we believe, a serious setback in the fight against corruption in Ukraine. It weakens Ukraine's anti-corruption architecture, including the soon-to-be-established High Anti-Corruption Court and the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. And that news from the broken parallel with other concerning developments in the judicial reform process. We understand that the High Qualifications Commission is to approve as many as 31 candidates with questionable to move one step closer to becoming Supreme Court justices. This could result in a Supreme Court in which 30% of the justices have demonstrated flawed professional ethics, which we believe is unsuited to the highest court in the land. Judicial integrity, I think everybody has recognized, is crucial to transforming Ukraine into a modern, prosperous European democracy. But instead of building that future, what we're seeing are some actions by the courts, or the courts being used in a way to block the reforms and some of the progress that Ukraine has made. In many cases, courts have reversed successful efforts to clean up the banking system. And most worrying, a new lawsuit was recently filed seeking to reverse the nationalization of Privatbank and put it back in the hands of those who plundered it. In the energy sector, where venal interests have long profited, hard-won achievements to fight those interests by establishing a real energy market are now under attack in the courts. It is increasingly clear that Ukraine's once-in-a-generation opportunity for change, for which was paid on, has not yet resulted in the anti-corruption or rule of law reforms that Ukrainians expect or deserve. But, the fight is not over, even after the tangible progress since the Revolution of Dignity. As observers of Ukraine during this election year, we've noticed that since the Ukrainian people want change in government, everyone styles themselves as a reformer. So what are some of the things that are being discussed in Ukraine today, initiatives that could move and help institutionalize the transformation that Ukrainians seek? I think one thing coming after last week's decision would be passing, not just proposing, passing a new and better amendment to the criminal code that not only restores illicit enrichment as an anti-corruption tool, but the dozens of cases that were undermined by the court decision. Instead of annulling anti-corruption laws, there's that the Constitutional Court could focus its attention on revoking the law that requires civil society to file electronic asset declarations, which was clearly intended to undermine the effectiveness of those, like media representatives, who expose corruption and hold elected representatives accountable. To ensure the integrity of anti-corruption institutions, the special anti-corruption prosecutor must be replaced. Nobody who has been recorded coaching suspects on how to avoid corruption charges can be trusted to prosecute those very same cases. Those responsible for corruption should be investigated, prosecuted, and if guilty, go to jail. And in order for that to happen, all of the elements of the anti-corruption architecture must be in place and must be working effectively. The High Qualifications Commission, we believe, should consider seriously questions about the integrity of judicial candidates. We don't understand to appoint demonstrably flawed candidates to the country's highest court, especially when there are other qualified candidates without such concerns available. And the Public Integrity Council must be given more power to prevent bad apples from continuing to corrupt the judiciary. As has been so long discussed in Ukraine, for decades really, MPs who continue to enjoy immunity from prosecution, a situation that everyone recognizes is wrong, should vote to end that immunity for the next Rada. The government of Ukraine should also immediately fund a complete audit of Ukroboronprom and declassify the state defense order to the maximum extent possible. This will promote transparency and fight corruption in the defense sector. Turning a blind eye to corruption in the defense sector is taking food, medical treatment, and weapons out of the hands of Ukraine's brave soldiers. And the government should investigate and prosecute cases of corruption at Ukroboronprom and elsewhere. Ukraine has made great strides in implementing corporate governance reforms, especially in the energy sector. But independent corporate governance teams, especially at state-owned enterprises, whether it is Ukroboronprom, Naftogaz, or any other state-owned, should be able to continue their reform work with full autonomy and integrity. And during an electoral year with both presidential and parliamentary up, I can't think of any greater priority that Ukraine's elections are free and fair. It is important that the will of the Ukrainian people be respected, no matter what the outcome. What does this mean in practice? Only the independent Central Election Commission should administer the election and count the votes. Civil society observers and campaign staff should not be intimidated or harassed. Official apolitical security should ensure that Tutushki or other armed groups do not stop voters. People who buy votes should be punished, but so should the people who are paying them for their vote. Campaigns that try to falsify vote records should be prosecuted. And government resources should never be used to target political opponents. In short, a country seeking integration with the European Union and NATO should ensure its action meet Western standards. So I'm often asked, why do we encourage these principles? Because the U.S. stands with the Ukrainian people in expecting free and fair democratic presidential and parliamentary elections later this year. The U.S. stands firmly alongside the Ukrainian people in demanding that individuals be held accountable for their actions, for corruption, and that the court systems be independent, transparent, and serve the Ukrainian people's interests. We stand with the Ukrainian people in supporting a end to the conflict in eastern Ukraine, and we also with the Ukrainian people in promoting a prosperous economy, a government that works for Ukrainians, respects their rights, and treats all citizens equally under the law. And so why do we support all of that? Because a prosperous, stable Ukraine that is at peace, that is democratic, great partner that makes for the United States. It works for Ukrainians, works for us, and we will have a stronger partnership as a result of Ukraine's development. I think the people in this room know that none of these goals can be fully achieved without a robust, independent media informing the public and policymakers. That's why we have been concerned by reports of pressure on independent journalists. Intimidation have no place in a modern democracy. Threats to independent journalism undermine the Ukrainian fight against corruption, and they undermine Ukraine's security. Because the more vulnerable an individual or an institution is to corruption, the weaker that society, the weaker that democracy. So those who support a stable, economically strong, democratic, and inclusive Ukraine must be the strongest supporters. So in closing, I just want to thank you again, Natalia, and to everybody here at UCMC for the opportunity to be here today. We've got our whole team here, I think, public affairs side, who are proud of our partnership with UCMC. We are grateful to be celebrating 5 years of great work with all of you, and grateful to be able to express U.S. support and strong Ukrainian media. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Well, we literally have maybe like 1 minute. So, do we have a question? Oh no. They say yes. That if there is a chance that you could also maybe say just one sentence. We have a video for the 5th anniversary. So if we could use your time for that, that's 1 second as you walk away. That would be great.
Well,
one question. All right, 1 or 2 questions, please. Yeah,
I really
that'd be
apologize.
great.
I'm racing out to the airport, as perhaps many of you know, Undersecretary Hale, who is our number 3 at the State Department and a close advisor to Secretary Pompeo, is arriving. So I have to run out to the airport to pick him up. But I don't feel like I can leave without taking questions.
Sure. Do we have a question? I think we've talked today a lot, about what we collectively have learned about the hybrid warfare threats. UCMC has established 2 new units basically in the last year and a half. One is youchoose.info, which fights populism, which includes media literacy, and the other one is hybrid warfare analytical groups, Ukrainian experience of targeting, on the attacks from the Russian Federation that are often tested in Ukraine,
Yes.
but that contain a lot of learnings for other countries. do we see also a scenario in which we could extend the media literacy and critical thinking and also the civic here, elsewhere, European partners, kind of how do you see this on the map coming forward?
Yeah. I think media literacy is such an issue today because, I find that even I, who spend a lot of time thinking about the issues of the hybrid war and Russian disinformation and so forth, I'll read an article and I'll go, I didn't realize that was happening. And then, when I ask Mike or Ray about it, well, yeah, it's not quite true, actually. Consider the source. So we at the U.S. Embassy do a lot of work. Specifically, Learn to Discern is our program with high schools, and we did a pilot quite successful because it's important to share with individuals, even kids who are in school, that what they read, there may be a reason that an outlet or an individual is writing what they write, saying what they say, and it may not be for good reason. So it's really important to kind of hone those skills. And what we find is that when you get kids who are kind of preteen and teenagers and they find out that you've got somebody out there anonymously trying to manipulate them, and it becomes, not only an important skill, but a little bit of a game for them to outsmart and out-manipulate the manipulators. I just also wanted to mention that last week at America House, which I hope all of you have been to America House, and if you haven't been there yet, you need to run there because we do all sorts of great programs. But we had a program that was, it was advertised for anybody of voting age, so it was many younger people, but also actually people who looked older than me. So I think, hunting for facts, honing those skills in advance of elections is really important. And I was really pleased to find out that it was not only here in a couple of locations in Kiev that we were doing this, throughout the country, and there were almost 8,000 participants in this. So I think there's a real hunger skills, and we certainly have a real drive to partner with you and with others in terms of writing those skills.
That would be great. 120,000 people who have youchoose.info. It's a political game where you can choose to become Ukraine's president, prime minister, head of OTH, so head of community, or parliamentarian.
Right.
And you're led through a series of yes and no questions, which actually either make you someone after whom people will want to name a street or a city, or you will finish the game much sooner. So I wish and we will certainly work with America House to make sure that this game also gets more to this great student audience that they have and great audience that they have. Well, I think, thank you so much.
Is that it?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.